Well, I just finished a long overdue reread of the novel that Soylent Green was based on by Harry Harrison. And here's my Blu-ray copy of Soylent Green. I thought this was a great movie when I went and saw it back in 1973 at the theater. And I just rewatched it about a week ago before reading the book, and I still think it is a great movie. It's the original book, Make Room by Harry Harrison, was serialized in Impulse magazine August, September, and October 1966. Then published by Doubleday, it appears from my research, June 1966. This is a population pollution warning novel, sort of along the lines of Alas Babylon, and there are a lot more. So I believe this one was published by Orb in 2008. It's kind of hard to tell here. Looks like 2008. There aren't any other dates on here. And apparently it contains the original Harrison dedication. Excuse me. And Harrison does include a prologue here that is very interesting. And at the end of the review, for anybody who is still interested, I will do a little bit of a review of this with the numbers that he's talking about here. And we'll take a look at that from 60 years down the road. So, again, most folks are going to be familiar with this novel and the movie. I find Harrison's writing to be excellent in this novel. The characters are well thought out and expanded. You can visualize his scenes. He delivers a sense of foreboding and urgency with a harsh story, but he hasn't written it in a sledgehammer style. None of Harrison's humorous style is displayed, though, and I missed that probably more than a little. There is rioting, romance gone awry, hunger, overcrowding, rationing, violence, among other things, are depicted. The novel does contain some controversial language, but I don't think it's being condoned. The first few pages of the novel really are mirrored pretty closely in the film's initial dialogue and setting. In the novel, we are introduced to Andy Rush, New York police detective, and that's the Thorne character in the film. I will call him Andy from here on in this review. We also meet Solomon Kahn and the Eldsters, a group of older activists who do not appear in the film. Many of the film's plot devices are then lifted with alterations from the novel, and they are more similar than I recalled. Cheryl, in particular, has a much larger novel role than in the film, but she does have a bodyguard in both the film and in print. She is met by police detective Andy after her wealthy and influential boyfriend is murdered by an intruder, and that's unintentionally in the book, but intentionally murdered in the film. And shortly after, Andy receives pressure from both screenplay and novel direct report and to apprehend this suspect. In the novel, this is young Billy Chung, who we get to know a lot more than the suspect in the film. Andy is ordered to track down the killer, very similar to the film, and eventually does find him and gets in trouble for following orders, as in the film. Now, before all that happens, Cheryl and Andy become close, and we get to know Cheryl a lot more than the film Cheryl. Now, if I failed to mention it, Cheryl does have a bodyguard in both the film and the book, and who is paid for by her wealthy boyfriend. Now, Saul has a lot more to say and discuss in the novel as well. He has a very different perspective on life in the novel than the film. However, his final moments have a few similarities to the film version, and there's a lot more going on in this novel, but I should stop the story review here before spoilers become evident. Now, the last page of the book has a very interesting statistic in it. This is at New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, the year 2000. Census says United States had biggest year ever end of century. 344 million citizens in these great United States. Happy New Century, Happy New Year. Now, that number, 344 million, is pretty close. In 1972, when I graduated from high school here in the United States, we had like 230 million people. So that's all very interesting, and I think most people would really enjoy the book. This next bit is just for nerds, and it is just the prologue, as Harrison makes a couple of statements in here in the prologue. In December 1959, the President of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower, said, "This government will not, as long as I am here, have a positive political doctrine in its program that has to do with the problem of birth control." He also points out that the United States uses most of the raw materials in the world. And I'll leave this up here in case somebody would want to read it. But in this prologue, Harrison posits that uncontrolled birth rates will destroy humanity. Certainly a valid concern. However, the U.S. and Western civilization nations are not the main reproducers. Western civilization media were warning about population control and pollution controls throughout the 1960s on, and most of those nations acted in the 1970s. However, and this is easily looked up online, this has led to birth rates lower than replacement levels in the U.S. and Europe, while some parts of the world have quite high replacement. I'm talking like 3-to-1 replacement rates in their marriages. Now, Western governments, and I'm hearing that this is happening in Europe as well, are implementing policies like tax breaks, parental leave, and child care support to encourage higher birth rates. Actions that would have stunned people from 1955 until roughly 2000, when people began to realize we weren't having a high enough birth rate. And in the prologue, Harrison speaks of the U.S. being the world's largest consumer of raw materials in 1966. That was correct, and the U.S. is, well, not so much anymore, but was a large manufacturing site. We have had all kinds of small business manufacturing going on within the U.S. borders. But now the reason why we were consuming all the raw materials is being forgotten here. That was largely the result of many nations being bombed to near oblivion in World War II, and it took them a few decades to return to full production in the early 1960s. And of course they began using more raw materials, probably in the mid-1950s and throughout the 1960s. But now China consumes more raw materials than anyone else in the world since about 2007, while U.S. manufacturing has massively shrunk since the 1970s. Well, that's all I've got on this. I hope everybody has a great day. I did get a new Twilight Zone blanket, and I will show that while I'm reviewing my Twilight Zone books here shortly. Thanks a lot.